son! What a hit!
Hello and welcome to another episode of A View from the Cop. So in today's episode, we will be doing a breakdown of the Uefa Champions League draw and what it means for Liverpool. Now, let me be honest, I don't really understand how the pots work, how Uefa works, but fortunately we have stat man Resh here, and he's done the research, he's gone through all of this effort to, in the best possible way, break this whole thing down for us. So Resh, where do we begin with this whole draw?
So, Kels, Liverpool currently find themselves caught between pot 2 and pot 3 for the draw. Right? That's mostly because UEFA calculate their coefficient, which is how they rank teams. Okay.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Which is how they rank coefficient, which is how they rank teams based on the team's performances in the last 5 seasons of the Champions League.
Okay, so from that, I know Liverpool participated in three
times.
Cool.
So Liverpool won the Champions
5 years.
League 3 times in the last 5 years. This will be our 4th in the past 6 years. Maths.
Progress.
Right? And because of that, we don't necessarily have as many points as some other teams in the Champions League.
Makes sense.
The likes of like Zenit St. Petersburg had the same amount of points as us, despite us even finishing as runners-up last season.
Wow.
So Liverpool currently have 62 points. That's our coefficient. Right? That places us 21st in the rankings.
21st.
21st in the rankings in Europe. Right?
Okay.
Right. So 4 pots in the Champions League. Right? Pot 1 is designated for Champions League holders.
Yeah.
Europa League holders, and then
Winners.
the winners of the 6
Makes
European leagues, right? Pot 2 to 4 is kind of just filled based on how teams finish in their respective European domestic leagues, as well as their FIFA coefficient rank.
Okay, so with you, winners in the first pot, and balance of the pots is basically where you finish domestically and how you've been in the last 5 years in the Champions League.
Combination of the two.
Cool.
Right, so because of that, Liverpool find themselves between 2nd and 3rd pot, right?
Okay, so what would define us ending up in pot 2, and what would define us ending up in pot 3, and what does it mean for Liverpool?
Okay, so currently 26 teams have qualified and are seeded for the Champions League, right? The remaining teams are still in qualifiers. One of these teams being Benfica, right?
Okay.
Benfica in qualifiers, which means that they have to win their tie, which is tomorrow.
They drew 1-1
against PAOK, Greek side, last week. This week, tomorrow rather, they have a game that they need to win to qualify for the Champions League.
Okay, and if they win?
If they win, they go into pot 2 based on their FIFA coefficient points. They have 80 points. They've pretty much been in the Champions League.
Okay, so you said we're on 62 points. Yeah. Benfica beat PAOK. They go on to 80 points. And there's no one in between. They basically take our spot.
They take our spot, we drop into pot 3.
Okay, so what would that mean for the club, pot 3 and pot 2, in terms of the draw?
So, I think a lot of Liverpool fans will say that they don't really care which pot we finish in, right? We finished as runners-up last season. We're challenging for our domestic league this season. We can pretty much take on whoever, right?
Pretty much.
If Liverpool finish in pot 2, Liverpool will avoid drawing the likes of Borussia Dortmund, Napoli, Roma.
Okay, three strong European teams there. 3
tricky teams, right? Because we still have to draw teams from pot 1, right? The likes of Juventus, Bayern, Barcelona, Madrid.
Okay.
Right? So we don't necessarily want a team made up of the likes of Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, that could be tricky to navigate, especially away from Anfield.
Exactly. Right, so should Greek side PAOK prevail, beat Benfica across the tie, and then put Liverpool in pot 2, we would avoid some big teams, and we'd make the draw a little easier in terms of drawing teams that finish in pot 3 and pot 4.
Alright. Cool. And if we finish in pot 3, if Benfica beat us, how does that affect us?
If Benfica beat PAOK, we draw the likes of
the big teams, as you mentioned. All right. So sounds like you would hope that we'd end up in pot 2, if I'm understanding what you've been saying.
I would hope that we end up in pot 2. So for me, that would constitute, that would constitute an ideal draw, an ideal seeding rather, because we'd draw a big team, which would be cool for the club, great for the lads to test themselves in the Champions League. A glamour fixture like Barcelona or Real Madrid, it would be brilliant.
That'd be awesome.
To bring Real Madrid.
You want to play the best. You want to play the best.
revenge. So that'll be great. And then part 3 and part 4, I think for these kind of clubs, it'd be ideal if we were to draw a club that's close in terms of actual proximity, distance from
so
Liverpool.
You're speaking traveling time for Liverpool. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, because if you think about how Jurgen Klopp likes to play, we know it's high intensity on the weekend. All 10 players on the outfield, even the goalkeeper last weekend, absolutely crazy. So very intense. Recovery time is important. Shorter distances means the team have more time.
Absolutely. So if you look at part 3 and part 4, and if we apply some geography, it'd be great if Liverpool could draw a PSV or an Ajax Amsterdam.
All right, Dutch teams there.
Netherlands is just a hop across the pond. And then from part 4, if we could draw the likes of a Club Brugge from Belgium
yeah.
or Young Boys from Switzerland,
yeah,
it would be great. So again, to your point, that would give the lads, minimize their traveling time, which would maximize their recovery time, and ensure that we're ready for the weekend and we're ready for the Premier League as well as the Champions League week in, week out.
All right, so from your description, basically, we don't want to end up in part 3. Part 2 would be better because we'd avoid some of the bigger teams in Europe. We'd still have to face one of the glamour clubs, or glamour fixtures as you called it, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, etc. And of course, we'd like to get Ajax and PSV are good clubs. We don't want to walk through the group stage. Obviously, you want to see some good football.
Absolutely.
You want to be challenged. Yes, you want to win.
Yeah.
Shorter distances, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So worst case, we end up in part 3. We face big clubs. We have to travel all over Europe, and it becomes much harder than it could be if we end up in part 2.
Kels, I think after watching Liverpool in the Champions League last season, we both know that any club that comes to Anfield are going to face a tough time.
Well, that's very true. I mean, Liverpool, what is it, unbeaten at Anfield since February? And I think it was West Brom who beat us 2-1 or 2-0 in the FA Cup. Something like
Small
that.
Small cups.
So, so it will be tough for anyone coming to Anfield. Okay, so all the mumbo jumbo out the way. We know where we need to end up. Let's get real for a second, and let's talk about your expectations and what would be good for Liverpool Football Club this season in the Champions League. Bearing in mind, of course, that every Liverpool fan out there wants and can feel the Premier League at this point. I know it's early, but we all have that expectation.
Well, if you were to look at the Champions League in isolation, and if you were to think of it logically, anything other than an improvement on last season
would constitute a failure.
But I mean, we finished runners up.
Second, yeah.
Right? So I don't think the fans are demanding that Liverpool be champions of the Champions League.
Yeah, I could see that.
Right? I personally would like to see domestic success. We need domestic success. The club has never had the Premier League. The club needs the Premier League, right? But obviously, you want to see the club prevail in the Champions League as well. So for me, if I had to kind of have a trade-off on the two,
you'd go for the Premier League.
I'd go for the Prem, but then
I can understand that. I think I also have that inclination of I'd take the Premier League over the Champions League. Yes, we want to win multiple trophies.
Absolutely.
But if this season all we come out with is the Premier League, it would be heaven on earth for Liverpool fans, really.
Absolutely. So if we get to the quarterfinal or semi-final and find ourselves coming up against a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I know Liverpool play some good football, but if we really come up with the Premier League this season, it would mean way more than the Champions League.
All right, guys, I think you can clearly tell how we feel right here about the Champions League and the Premier League. Let us know what you guys obviously think. Do you feel the same as us, or do you think the club should be winning Champions League and Premier League, or maybe Premier League, FA Cup, sacrifice the Champions League? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions on it? Drop a comment, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. So until the next video, that's been our view from the Cup.